This next portion of this verse says, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong. Can be hard to understand, so let me see if I can help with this stepping stone. See if I can clear some of the white water away so that you can see the stone itself. In the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament used by Jesus, it was it's actually one of the oldest, if not the oldest translation that we have today of the Old Testament. It's called the Septuagint, and it refers to the 72 people who translated it. And it was translated about 400 years before Jesus walked on the earth. And there were 6 people chosen from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And they helped to translate the Old Testament into Greek, because that's the word that they were using, or that's the language that they were using. That's the language that most people understood. Even Jews, for the most part, did not speak or understand Hebrew at that time. So they took the Hebrew Old Testament, translated it into Greek, and it's the oldest that we have. So that's the Septuagint. And then there is another group of texts called the Latin Vulgate, and that dates back to the 4th century. And so that's taking the Old Testament and putting it into Latin. Then there's another group of texts called the Arabic versions. They date from the 9th century. So those 3 texts are the oldest texts of the Old Testament that we have. Now, why am I making a big deal about that? I'm doing that because where it says he shall divide the spoil with the strong, in those 3 texts, it says he shall divide the spoil of the strong. Now, all of a sudden, that makes a little bit more sense, because it says he's going to divide a portion with the many. So there's going to be lots, but he's only taking a few, and he's going to divide the spoil of the strong. So what am I talking about here? John Gill, an old school commentator, explains it best. He says that Isaiah is saying that the spoils of sin belong to the devil. In other words, when the devil came and introduced sin to the world, every single person ever born then became his spoil. Every single person ever born from that moment forward is born a sinner. The devil, it appears, has won and claimed all of God's creation for himself. It appears. He's the strong. As a result, the devil's spoils are the allegiance of mankind to himself instead of God. Every single person born comes with an allegiance to the devil. Even Jesus said, you are of your devil, or of your father, the devil. The New Testament tells us that the father of all liars, and he's meaning all of us, is the devil. This portion of Isaiah is saying that God comes along and he divides those spoils and he takes back his portion. The ones the New Testament calls the elect.